Kurt Mattix. Well, first of all, Coach, always appreciate you joining us here on the morning. How are you feeling here the day before Game 2 of this Aztec season?
Feeling great, and thanks for having us on.
Yeah, the first game, first games are always challenging. I talked to Coach Hoke on Monday. Obviously, there were some concerns about what happened in the first half, certainly offensively. Second half, though, the offense was ignited. And defensively, you guys faced some challenges. Obviously, New Mexico State was throwing the ball all over the place, and maybe it took a little time for you guys to sort of get adjusted. But talk about some of the adjustments you did make defensively and how you're able to shut them out in that second half.
Well, first of all, New Mexico State is very well coached, and from week 1 to week 2, you could see the adjustments that they made. Whether it be from a protection standpoint or just the execution of them, delivering the ball and catching the ball really well. They did some of that in the first week. They just didn't capitalize on some of the plays that, they had open. So from a protection standpoint, we felt like we needed to attack their protections a little bit different than what they showed in the first week. And then from a receiver standpoint, we felt like we needed to get up and try to press them a little bit and change from, trying to show a press and then go into some zone coverages from there. So trying to give some different shells and attack them a little bit different than what we showed going into the game.
Obviously, there's experience up front, but some inexperience, some new faces, new positions in your secondary. How did you grade out the secondary's performance in that opening game?
Well, the first half, I would say, was probably not up to the standard of what we're asking for. But in the second half, when we tried to do a couple adjustments and give them an opportunity, we felt like they stepped up and really did a great job. That being said, again, give credit to New Mexico State. They were able to get rid of the ball really quick. And, again, from our standpoint, it was a little bit different than what we saw on film. So, yes, I would say they felt like they probably didn't play as well as they needed to. But in the second half, when we were able to get to the quarterback a little bit more and the ball was coming out a little bit quicker, and they felt like, hey, they were able to make a couple more plays on the ball, which, towards the end of the game, we felt like, hey, that was a little bit of credit to them as well as the credit to up front, winning some of those one-on-one battles.
So this week you take on an Arizona team very similar. Gunnar Cruz, their quarterback, threw 45 passes against BYU in their opening game loss. Talk about some of the things they do with their passing game that maybe resemble what you saw against New Mexico State and some of the things they do differently.
Well, start out again, within their coaching staff. Coach Fish does a great job. Has their offense is riddled with a lot of NFL type style. Almost similar to what the Rams are doing. So from an offensive standpoint, they're going to be very multiple, and they do a great job of delivering the ball to a lot of different targets. So, one of their receivers had 12 receptions. Their running backs both had 6 receptions. So they did a great job of spreading, BYU out and, dinking and dunking and getting the ball to their players. So very similar as far as what we try to do with New Mexico State, try to, do a better job of, earlier in the game as far as changing our coverages, giving them looks, and then taking those looks away as well as trying to get pressure on the quarterback.
I don't know if you got to see any of that game last night between Tampa and Dallas, Coach, but, combine 108 passes in that game. It's almost like the running game has been abandoned. We're seeing that for a lot of schools. Obviously, the Aztecs are certainly an exception to that, featuring the running game. But when you're playing a team that's going to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game, it just seems to me, and I'm watching that game last night just thinking how exhausted your secondary has to be. You're chasing these guys all over the field. Obviously, you're hoping your front seven's going to put a little pressure on the quarterback, force him to, make some errant throws. But, I don't even know how you prepare guys for that kind of onslaught. How challenging is it for these young athletes? I know they're young, but still, that's got to be taxing on you over the course of a game.
And there's no question, and you're exactly right. And what we will try to do to our best ability is create depth amongst our defensive line as well as linebackers as well as secondary to try to spell some people throughout the game. But there's no question, offenses have become very dynamic as far as making a defense defend 50 53 and a third yards, from sideline to sideline, from one end zone to the other, and trying to be very multiple, and whether it be with protections or with just getting rid of the ball so quick, sometimes you're not able to get pressure on the quarterback, which can make him hopefully make some bad decisions. So sometimes you're going to have to play some drop 8 coverages, which then in return, you're not putting the pressure on the quarterback or getting hits on the quarterback. So there's that fine line where you have to be a little aggressive, but ultimately try to help some of the defensive backs out by putting an extra guy into coverage to help them, make the game a little bit easier for them.
Coach, when we think about Aztec defense over the past decade plus, the one thing that just stands out is creating turnovers. This team has been so prolific in turnovers over the years. How does that happen? Is that just an innate ability to be in the right place, right time? How much do you stress the ability of creating turnovers defensively?
Well, again, I would say it started back when Coach Hoke took the head coaching job here the first time, and Coach Long was the defensive coordinator, and that was the emphasis that was put on. It was developed and built within the culture and continued on. But I would say last season, in the partial season that we had, we did not, get as many turnovers as we needed to or what our expectations were. So without question, it's something that we emphasize every day. We talk to them, we ingrain it in them, and within the system that we have, whether it be man coverage or zone coverage, we're going to be try to be as tight as we can, be to the receivers. But without question, it's something that we try to preach every day, and then reward the actions that are good, and continue to help develop the actions that are not where it needs to be, so that we're able to have the success that we can.
Yeah, we mentioned that Arizona quarterback Gunnar Cruz had a big day, 34-45, 336 yards, but BYU won this game because they were able to pressure him. 4 sacks in that game, 48 yards and losses on those sacks. So how confident are you and your guys up front to get some pressure on Cruz and put him on his butt?
Well, we're going to do our best, without question. Their quarterback did a great job of, sort of having that mental clock in his head as far as saying, hey, if it's not 1,001, 1,002, I'm going to try to get to a check down. So if we can do a good job of, staying tight to that check down, and he has to maybe hold or scramble the ball, we feel that we can put pressure on him. And then the second thing is, are they going to, use the same type of protections? Or are they going to use some of the stuff that New Mexico State did, try to max pro and limit some of the receivers they have in routes? So if we can, get to him pretty early and hit him like we did last week, but we hit the quarterback last week 18 times. And so that's something that we're going to stress again today in our meetings on our way to Arizona, but just emphasize getting to the quarterback and putting our hands up and trying to hit him as many times as we can. Yeah,
one final note, Coach. First road game of the season. Obviously, things much different than they were a year ago as far as these stadiums are concerned. How do you expect your team to hold up on their first road challenge?
Well, to be honest with you, Steve, every home game's almost a road game too.
Yeah.
And so from that standpoint, we feel like we have a great system. Coach Hoke is very consistent with our expectations on a road trip as far as making it a business type trip. And, we're really excited. We're hoping that it is a sellout for them, for our players, the opportunity to play in front of 57,000 people or 51,000 people. We're excited for that environment. And we're going to take all that in and put out our best performance.
I got good news for you, Coach. Next year, I see this new stadium being built. I don't know if you're zooming by that 8 and 15, but man, oh man, that stadium looks like it's almost ready to go right now. But in the meantime, take care of business down in Tucson. Coach, we always appreciate the time. Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you, Steve, and have a great day.